Well, good morning again to everyone. Happy Easter to everyone. What a pleasure it is to pray with you this morning as we celebrate the Lord's resurrection. I've heard some people comment on the seating in the church during the pandemic, how much they love it because they realize now that they can sit further back than the last pew. There's actually chairs beyond that, and now chairs in the vestibule. This is perfect for all you people way in the back, so congratulations, you found a way to get further from the altar. That's great. Okay, Easter is so important to us as Christians. Our whole faith hinges on Jesus rising from the dead, and he promises that we too will rise on the last day. We share in his victory over death even now. This is our faith. We bet our lives on it. For this homily, I'd like to talk actually about the faith of women. Because women, it seems like they have an easier time with faith than men. And I can guarantee you there are more women in this church right now than there are men. That's the case every single day of the year. Often, it's the example of women that help draw men more deeply into their faith, more deeply into a relationship with God. And I would bet that the overwhelming majority of men here in this church with a very vibrant faith can trace the roots of that faith to a woman. If it's your wife or your mother or your grandmother, that's how it is with me. And many of you have heard my testimony about my grandmother, Bernita, a woman of tremendous faith. She had faith in the Lord, and she had faith in the Cleveland Indians. The Lord never let her down. Okay? Her life helped me discover the importance of church and the beauty of being a Christian. And without her example, without her prayers, I would not be a priest today. And this is my point. I'm going to say it a few times. Women have a way of inspiring men in the faith. And just some examples from the scriptures. The scriptures say that that's what faith is. You're like, wow, women have deep faith. That means they have a certain vision. A vision maybe better than their male counterparts, a spiritual vision. They see the world differently. Faith is a vision of things unseen. So if you have faith, you can see God at work. And you can have this expectant faith. You know what that is? That's this vision, this hope that God will indeed do amazing things. This expectant faith, this hopeful vision of reality, it comes naturally to women. So again, from the scriptures, the gospel we just heard, isn't it interesting? Who's going to the tomb that first Easter morning? It's a woman. It's Mary Magdalene. Where was everybody else? Where were the men? It was Mary who had that expectant faith. She remembered Jesus' promise. He would rise on the third day. And that's why Mary Magdalene, was the first witness of the Lord's resurrection. She anticipated God doing amazing things. And then what happens? She runs. She runs to the menfolk, okay? She becomes a witness to Peter and to John and to the other apostles. By the way, Mary Magdalene running, that's a sign to us. That's a sign of her enthusiastic faith, her contagious, enthusiastic faith. So soon, what happens? Peter and John, they start running. They run to the tomb where they have an experience of faith. And you know what? I can just imagine Peter and John, after they saw the empty tomb, they came to believe. I can see them going back to Mary Magdalene and thanking her. Thanking this woman who inspired their Easter faith. You see how that works? This woman, she shared her faith with them. She opened their hearts to God's mighty works. Maybe just a couple more examples. This one from our Catholic tradition. Have you guys heard of this tremendous saint, Saint Monica, from the 4th century? She has this illustrious title, the Mother of St. Augustine. which is kind of denigrating because she's a remarkable woman in her own right. She was bright and strong, had a tremendous faith, and you know what? Her husband and her son Augustine, they didn't. They didn't have faith. They had fallen away. Augustine, her son, he was intelligent, like a genius, once in a generation intellect, like on the level of like Shakespeare or Tolkien. He was so smart, but he was not very devout. He did not immediately follow in the footsteps of his mother, Monica. He chased after different philosophies and different religions and different women, okay? Monica prayed for his conversion. And she prayed some more. And she prayed some more for her son. And she prayed for literally decades. It's one of her greatest attributes. Monica was a woman who knew how to persevere. And she had this expectant faith. It's like she knew in her bones, she could see it with her eyes of faith. God's grace was going to be enough for her son. And you know what? After those decades of prayer, Augustine, he found his way back into the church. And you can read all about it in his book, The Confessions, the very first autobiography written in Western civilization, The Confessions. St. Augustine, in that autobiography, he gives credit to whom? He gives credit to this woman, his mother, Monica, who did not give up on him. And he thanked her for it. You know, her example of faith opened up Augustine's heart to God's mighty works. Last example. This is from more recent times. An example I just heard not too long ago. A nurse. Her name is Nancy in New York City. And Nancy, true story. She has this knack for waking people up from their comas, okay? She's a woman of tremendous faith, this expectant faith. She was in the ICU with this young man, and she was playing his favorite music and speaking to him and praying to him while he was in a coma. The neurosurgeon walks in, and he says, in Nancy's presence, in the presence of this young man in the coma, he says out loud, "This man will be dead soon, and it's a good thing, because otherwise he'd be a vegetable for the rest of his life." You know what? Nancy didn't want to give up on this young man so soon. It's perseverance. She prayed with him some more, and she prayed with him some more, and she gently encouraged him to wiggle his toe. And he did. And so she ran. She ran to get the doctor. Come back, and she told him what happened. So the doctor comes in, and the doctor says, "Wiggle your toe." And he didn't. And Nancy said, "Wiggle your toe." And he did. Eventually, this young man, he got better. Within weeks, he got better. Fully recovered, he comes back to the hospital looking for Nancy. Why? To thank her. To thank her. Her expectant faith opened up his heart to God's almighty works. And by the way, she asked him, she said, "Well, why did you move when I commanded you, but you didn't move for the doctor?" And he said, "Because you had faith in me." And that's where I want to end the homily today. Talking about these women. They had great faith, tremendous faith in God, but they also had tremendous faith in the people they loved, the people they served. That's what faith is, right? Not just seeing God's mighty works, but seeing the potential, with great hope, seeing the potential in the people around us. So Mary Magdalene, yes, she had faith in Jesus, but she also had faith in Peter and John. You know, Monica, she had great faith in God, but she also had faith in Augustine. You know, Nancy, wow, what a tremendous lady, this nurse with great expectant faith, but she also had faith in her patient. And that makes all the difference. You know, we're people of faith. We see beyond the surface, and we see how God is working even invisibly in the lives of others. It takes patience. Friends, It takes perseverance. But women especially have this unwavering faith to know, to see that the risen Christ can bring about a resurrection in others. I'm going to close. I mean it this time. I'm really going to close when I say there is this woman. Her name is Mary. That's why my grandmother Bernita was so important to my life, because she introduced me to the rosary, and she introduced me to Mary, our mother. And that's where the roots of my devotion to Mary belong, my grandmother Bernita. And I know that, that Mary, she was there every step of the way in Jesus' life, in his death, and his resurrection. Mary has faith in her Son, and she has faith in each one of us. She has this persevering faith. So let's not make Mary wait any longer. Let's run to the empty tomb and place our faith in the risen Lord.